So schedules, parametric, all update according to whatever you happen to click. Now again, on here I can't edit this right here. I've got to actually either activate the view, or I actually have to go to that actual section view over here. You have to keep track of whether you're on a sheet or you're in the view over here. So door schedules can be exported simply by creating the schedule, view, new schedule, and then exporting it. So we've talked a little bit about that. Host objects are objects such as walls, floors, roofs, stairs, ramps, and ceilings. And these objects host components, which are furniture and windows and doors and railings and equipment, and these are all family components, and they're all associated to the host objects, and then these host objects are then tied into the datum points, which are your levels and your grid lines and your reference planes. So you control your objects by using datum base objects here, and then moving these objects around and locking them and putting constraints on these objects. Will then control these objects, and then these objects are hosting these objects. So that these three very important in that components go into host objects get tied to datum points, datum base elevations or reference planes, and columns or grids all give you a central control. So there's that kind of wrapped up. We've got annotation objects we're not going to do, we'll do more on later, and that is just things like text and dimensions and symbols, and they're drawing specific or view specific. So if I want to put some text on here, I can just go up in here and I can put some text on here, and of course your text is going to read your scale factor. We have different text commands, we'll come back to it, but as we place text, it's only specific to this view. It's not going to show up when we go into our 3D view over here and we look at this. There's not going to be some text floating in the middle of nowhere. Similarly, like if we're on this first floor and we put some text in here, it's not going to show up over here. Okay, even if we say underlay the first floor behind the second floor, it will not bring the annotation with it. You can only drag one view to a sheet, or a view to a sheet once. If this view of the first floor plan is placed on sheet A108, for instance, and I'll just make some room here by clicking on this and deleting that view, it only deletes it from here. It doesn't delete it from the actual model. I'm going to take my first floor plan, I'm going to drag that in. I'm going to actually go to my first floor plan, and first thing I'm going to do is change my scale to be 1 to 100. I'm in a metric environment opening an imperial drawing, which is fine. So then I can go back down to my sheet here in my A108, and I can take that first floor plan and I can drag it onto here. Okay, now if I want to place that floor plan on my other sheet as well, it's not going to let me do that because it can only be dragged once. So if I drag this onto this sheet, it's going to say already placed on a drawing, you have to duplicate it. So I'm going to right click on first floor, and I'm going to say either duplicate or duplicate with detailing. Double clicking on it opens it. Right click. If I duplicate it, it just duplicates the core model objects and doesn't take dimensions and text and annotation. If I duplicate with detailing, then it'll actually take all the details with it, and it's going to create a new copy of that first floor plan, and those are more or less linked. If I go to my first floor and I take this piece of furniture and I delete it and I go to here, okay, it's gone. Okay, again, if I take this sofa that's right inside of here and I delete it from this plan, I hit my delete button and it deletes it, it's also gone in there. And similarly, if I move a wall inside of here and I go back to this, it's going to do it in there. So then you can have different scale factors, and I can take this and I can rename this to be whatever I want, first floor furniture type thing, and then get rid of that. And then what I'm able to do now is I'm able to have, okay, first floor furniture plan, I'm going to say you are at 1 to 50, okay, and first floor you are at 1 to 100, and there, but yet still maintaining the fact that if you delete something from one, it deletes from the other. Click inside of here, whoops, and then delete. Okay, so duplicating floor plans, that way you can have different scale factors of the same drawing. Okay, so we've talked a little bit about duplicating, annotation, stuff like that. We'll talk now about the interface and how that works, and close off with some shortcut keys. So interface, really we're talking about the components of Revit. So and which we haven't talked about. So we've got basically our pull down menu and our menu tools up inside of here. So inside of here we'll see a lot of stuff under settings like annotation and arrowheads and project units and line styles and line weights and material properties and fill patterns. So all of your settings where you set up your tools are inside of here. Window, we can see all these different windows that are open now. If I hit tile now, guess what? I'm going to get a whole bunch of different windows. I could easily go in here and just start kind of closing some off and then retile them if I want. Okay, no problem there. And then we can again see how things update. And of course I have my screen compacted to 800 by 600 here, so we're not getting a lot of view space. So we've got our menu up here. We've got our normal windows, open, close, cut, copy, and paste. We've got our undo buttons. We've got 3D button over here, depending on what window we're in. Let's just close a couple of these off in here and then go inside of here. It wouldn't really matter. I'm going to go into, as soon as I hit this 3D button, it automatically bumps me into this 3D view over here. If I use my shift and my middle mouse button, oh, I grabbed something there. If I'm inside of here and I use my shift and middle mouse, I can wheel around and then I can scroll in and out. So I have a wheel mouse. Again, shift, middle mouse lets you swivel when you're in the 3D view. You can also at any point just do a zoom command in over there and you can pan around by using your middle mouse to scroll and pan around that way. So we have this toolbar inside of here. We've got, if we actually call that up, we can say spin, and now we can just use a normal mouse button and we can scroll, which is panning and stuff. But with the mouse operations, we're not using this quite as much. Then we've got reference setting your working plane. We'll talk about all these different wonderful tools. And so we've got our toolbar section over here, and this dynamically changes, and you'll see this area will change depending on, if I click the wall command, we'll see that this dynamically changes. This up here will stay pretty much consistent, and this is where we've got our offset and our trim and split and align. We use these all the time, many times a day. We've got some really nice object painters and Revit special painting tools over here when we want to draw line work. Our demolition object, which means the object will be demoed or removed or phased. And then over here we've got our design bar. In our design bar we can see we've got view tools and modeling tools and drafting tools. If I right click on here, I can say show me my site tools, and now I'll be able to see the site tools. Okay, if I right click on here, you can see there's more. There's a rendering one, right click again, structural, right click again, construction. And the problem here, of course, is that sometimes your commands, you can't see all your commands, so you definitely generally get in and turn off the ones that area analysis, rendering, structural. So you want to thin these down to the ones that you're probably not using, or that you are using, and then dynamically as you click on a floor you'll see different options change inside of here. Oh, we're in sketch mode now. We'll talk about that. Notice it grays everything out. Very nice tool with Revit is when you go into sketch mode, which happens to be, in this case, roofs and floors both go into this sketch mode, and here it's asking me for a plane to draw, and I'm just going to cancel that out, quit that over. So as we're drawing, we've got our design bar, and this is our project browser over here. We can close this up, and this is basically all of the different views of our model. Sheets, families are kind of like blocks, okay? Columns, the different column families that we've got, we can load them in by going here and picking component, and then we can pick load, and that's how we load. Notice it goes smartly to the right folder inside of here, and we can go in and say I want a door family, and it'll show me all my different door families. Go back up one, annotation objects. Okay, so we can go in and we can load different components, and those components will then show up in our families folder. Sheets we saw a little bit of. We can go new sheet and we create our sheets, which is inevitably what we're publishing. We've got schedules, which get their own little folder inside of here. As you create your schedules, you drag them to your sheets, and then